Okay, we're up to Nun Beis Amid Beis. We saw a machlokus yesterday. Let's go over the machlokus, and there's going to be 6 ways to explain the machlokus. In the case is you first go ahead and you give chalitza, and then you do mimer, right? So that they said you have to give a get for the mimer. Again, that's all you have to know. Chalitza, mimer, you have to get a get for the mimer. Good. So that's what the Mishnah said. So the Mishnah said that. No, excuse me. I'm sorry. Okay. I'd like to start recording again, but I can't. Okay, now you don't chalitza and maimah. The maimah doesn't count. You just have chalitza and the maimah doesn't count. Why? Because the Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Akiva, who holds kiddushin is not tofis by chayvei lavin. So once you give chalitza, that creates an isser of kiven shalay bona shulayivne. Once you didn't get it, you had a chance to do yibam and you didn't. Now there's a lav to do anything. So to give maimer afterwards would be a lav. So there's a lav on this woman and this lav on this chalitza, and therefore a kedusha is not typhus, and therefore ein achamayim klum. However, the chachamim would hold, the chachamim would be of the opinion that in fact that kedushin would be typhus, and therefore you'd have to give a get for the maimer, because kedushin is tofes by chayvei lavim. So after the chalitza, there's a lav. If you do maimer is the same as kedushin. So therefore, you would need a get according to the chachamim. So our Mishnah that says you don't need anything clearly as Rabbi Akiva. We had a third shita, which was a kind of a compromise. It was the shita of Rabbi, meaning it depends what the maimer was for. If the maimer was for yibum, then there's nothing to talk about because chalitza took care of it. However, if the maimer was for kedushin, then you would require a get. So the Rebbe is kind of a hybrid between Rabbi Akiva requiring nothing, which is our Mishnah, and the Chachamim requiring no matter what, any situation requiring what? Requiring a get. Because kedushin will be typhus. We have the hybrid of Rebbe. It depends what the maimer was for. If it was for kedushin, yes, you would need a get. If it was for yibum, then you would not. And now the Gemara, we're going to have opinion of what's the explanation of Rebbe. We're going to have 6 opinions as to explain the machlokes between Rebbe and the Chachamim. Again, the Chachamim, no matter what, you're going to have to give a get for the maimer, no matter what the maimer was for. After the chalitza, you're going to the maimer, and like Rebbe, it depends whether it was for ishus or for yibum. And we're going to have 6 ways to explain it, and that's going to be the first part of today's daf. So we're on Nun Beis Amid Beis. I'd say we're 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17 lines up. Amar Rabbi Yosef. Parallel to the Taisus, Ka'odim Nichsei Ager, one line up. Amar Rabbi Yosef, my time with the Rebbe, what's the reason for Rebbe that if you give it l'shem ishus, that if you do it l'shem yibum, that it doesn't count? Says the Gemara. Asua ka'oder b'nichsei ager. Now the halacha is the following. Here's the idea: a ger has no yorshin. So if you happen to come upon a ger that died, if you would go into his field and do an act of kinyan in his field, such as digging, which is considered chazaka, you're being machzik in the field, you would be kind of the field. The scenario is like this: the person has his field is right next to, it's adjacent to a ger's field. The ger dies. He thinks he's doing his field. So ka'oder b'nichsei ager ukesabeh shalohein, and he thinks it's his field. Delay kani, that he's not kaina. So the parallel to over here is he thinks he's giving kedushin for what? For one thing, and it has to be for ishus, and he's giving it what? For yibum. Therefore, it's not kaina. That's the parallel. That's the reason for Rebbe. Amalei Abaya, me dummy. That's not comparable at all. Hasam like kana, right? Like mechavin lemikni. When he's digging in his own field, he has no kavana to acquire anything. So good, his action is an action of acquirement. But since his kavana is not to be acquired, he would not. On the other hand, but Hacha, when he went ahead and he was Makadish the Yevamot, kamechavin lemikne, even though she had chalitza, his kavana is to be kainaha, albeit through not a good kinyan, but he has in mind to be kaina. So it's not a good sushtel, it's not a good parallel to the case of the ger at all. where he just happens to be going ahead and digging without any kavana. Over here, he certainly has kavana. It's not going to work. Oh, so now the Gemara says, if you want to go ahead and compare it to a case, it's comparable, but in that case, you would acquire. Ella, you want to compare our case where you have a kavana to acquire, but you don't. That's the case of Lo'edim Nichse Ger Zeh Ukesava Shel Garacher. He goes ahead, there's Ger A and Ger B, they're both dead. He thinks he's doing Ger A and he happens to be doing Ger B. He would be kinda. He would be kinda because he's Mechaben over there. So if that's a parallel over here also, even though he's Mechaben for Yibum, it should go ahead and work. So therefore, that can't be the reason for Rebbe that it doesn't work. It can't be the reason. Again, Rebbe says, if your kavana was for Yibum, then lo yachad klum. You don't need anything. You don't need to get for that. Ella says the Gemara, Ella, Amma Abaya, what's the reason for Rebbe that makes the difference between, but again, Machlokas Rebbe and Chachamim, what's the difference? The Amala, he said to the Yevamot, his chalutza, his skachi li, the Ma'amar Yevamim. He said it openly, V'imu Kudeshes to me with the mimer of Yevamim. Rebbe Savar, Maima Ilu Zika Karami. Mimer, what Mimer does when you give it, it just adds on to an existing Zika. Good. Mimer, guys, adds on to existing Zika. We had yesterday. How do you view Mimer? Do you view it as piggyback to an existing Zika? In other words, it enhances the Zika? Or do we view it as an ancillary, two separate things? We said, according to Rabbi, it was two separate things. So guys, Geshmak, watch. Guys, look at me. If you hold that Mimer is piggyback to Zika, once they did Chalitza, there's no Zika. If there's no Zika, there's no Mimer. There's no place for it to be Chal. Again, if Mimer is not a separate entity unto itself, it's just ancillary to what? To Zika. So if I did a Mimer after a Chalitza, once I did Chalitza, there is no Zika. So if there's no Zika, there's no Mimer. Therefore, there's no need for a get. That's Rebbe. Conversely, the Chachamim of the opinion, it's two separate entities. And Memela, the fact that I did Chalitza doesn't take away from the Mimer, and therefore I would need a get. That would be the first Hezber of the Machloikis between Rebbe and the Chachamim, according to Abaya. Let's see it inside. Says Abaya, Elo Amr Abaya, here's the reason for Rebbe. Hachamay and going to Amalah, he said to her, Hiskachili b'Maimer Yevamim. Rebbe Sava Maimer Ilu Zika Karamya. We're going to put the Maimer on top of the Zika. The Asi Chalitza, Afkasa Zika. Came along the Chalitza, what did it do? It totally removed the Zika. And therefore what? The Maimer has no place to be Chal, to manifest itself. Rabban and Sami, no. Hailechude Koiva, Hailechude guy. The two separate entities, Zika and Maimer, two separate entities, totally. Therefore it is Chal, and therefore you'd have to give a get for the Maimer. And therefore, before the Chalitza, Ilu Amala Eskachli b'Maimi Yavam Milim Mahani, Ashtanami Mihani, therefore also you would help that you would need a get. That's the first explanation. There's 5 more to follow. Again, once we have direction, we're good. All we're trying to do is figure out what's the Hezbollah Floikis between Rebbe, who makes the distinction between being Mekadesh a Maimah for Yavam versus for Ishus.
I was wondering yesterday, how do you know what his das is? Does he have to express it prepared?
Yeah. He says it. Yeah, that's of course. Rava says, even Rebbe would be maida that if he said, I'm giving you the Maimer for specifically for Yibum, that it would go ahead, it would help. He said it would help because each one is a separate entity. For Hochamayaskina going to Amala, Hiskachili bizikas Yevamim. Be Mekudeshes to me, bizikas Yevamim. It doesn't say Maimer. He said, Be Mekudeshes me, bizikas Yevamim. Focusing on the Zika. Now, Rebbe's of the opinion. So Rebbe is of the opinion that yesh Zika. So now, if I want to be Mekadesh guys with the Zika and the Zika is not there, it's not going to work. So therefore, Rebbe's of the opinion, yesh Zika. V'yasi chalitza afka asel Zika. Came along the chalitza that preceded the Maimer and does away with the Zika. And therefore, there's no place for the Maimer to be chal. For Rabban and Sarvi, ain Zika, and they have Meikara initially, Iluam Allah Skachli Bezikas Yavam Mila Mahanya would have worked, Hashtanami Mahanya. So we have 2 pshatim. We have a bias pshat, it's Mekadishli Kedusha, Maimis Yavamim, Rav is pshat zikas yevamim. It depends on yesik or ain sika. Rabbi holds yesika. Now there's no sika anymore, and the Chum say ain sika bichal beforehand. There's no difference. Therefore, the chalitza doesn't affect the zika ki there because the power of the zika is not enough to stop the maimer. Rabbi Shravia Oimer. Rabbi Shravia is of the opinion the chalitza kshera. If it was a good chalitza, either amalei skachli besikas yevamim kuli amalei pligi delay mahanya. It wouldn't help. Everyone says it wouldn't help. But what's the machlokes? A zikas psula. Again, we know what a chalitza psula is already. He gave a get, but he gave a get that made the chalitza shvacha, and then he did a maimer. So guys, the case is get, chalitza, maimer. So this chalitza in the middle, what is a shvacha chalitza? It's chalitza psula. The question is, does a chalitza psula pata or not? If you hold it patas, then what? There's no zika, there's no maimer. Conversely, if you hold it doesn't pata, there's still zika there. If there's zika there, then what? Then it'll pass the chal. So that this is the teretz now. Masava, Rebbe's of the opinion, chalitza psula paiteres. The chalitza psula does pater. Therefore, when you did chalitza, that followed a get. It patters the yevama. Memela, there's no mimer. And umasava, the chacham of the opinion, chalitza psula ain't a paiteres. And therefore, there's still zika there. There's still zika there. What? If there's a place for it to be chal. Rav Ashi Yom says no. The kuliyama chalitza psula ain't a paiteres. Rebbe says ain't a paiteres. Now we need to. So what's the svar of Rebbe? Why, if you give what l'shem yavam or zika, why does it not? Why is it nothing? Why don't you have to deal with the mimer? Now we want to know if there's a tanai or not. In other words, let's say this is your chalitza almanas. You give me $200. This is your chalitza almanas that you give me $200. So is there such a thing as a tanai? If you hold that there's no tanai, then you don't have to fulfill it. Then you don't have to fulfill it. If you hold there is tanai, you have to fulfill it. So Rebbe would hold there's no tanai. Since there's no tanai, okay, says the Gemara. Vashiyam the kuliyam machalitza psulayim pateres. Ubiyesh tanai bechalitza k'mifli. Masava, the Rabbanim are of the opinion yesh tanai bechalitza. So if you don't fulfill it, then the chalitza is not a chalitza, and therefore the maima is a maima. And Rabbi says, ain't tanai. So no matter what tanai you made, ain't tanai means you cannot make a tanai. So good. This is your chalitza. Manasseh give me $200. You give chalitza. She doesn't give the $200. You don't have the ability to stop this chalitza because ain't tanai. Memela, if there's no tanai, so the zika is off. There's no zika, then what? Then there's no mimer. Where the chacham says no. If you didn't fulfill the tanai, it's no chalitza. If there's no chalitza, then what? Then there is mimer. Ravina Amar, final teretz. Ravina says, the kuliyama tonight, there is a tanai b'chalitza. Even Rabbi holds tanai b'chalitza. V'hacha b'tanai kafel k'miflagi. Now we learn, guys, out b'nei Gad b'nei Ruvain. Where did we know tanai from? Outside. This is really in the end of Masechtas Kedushin, but it's a famous sugya throughout Shas. It shows up all the time. Moshe Rabbeinu, they had to say, if you go into Eretz Yisrael, then you'll get to it. And if you don't, you won't. You had to go ahead and say the inverse. You had to say the positive and the negative. So over here, you'd have to say, this is your chalitza if you give $200, and if you don't give $200, no chalitza. So whether you need tanai kafel or not, that's the machlokes. The kuliyama is tanai. V'hachad of machlokes is tanai kafel k'miflagi. Rebbe's of the opinion. Rebbe's Marsav, which is Rebbe Shevi'in and tanai kafel. You need a tanai kafel, right? And therefore, if you since it's not, there's no tanai kafel over here, there's no tanai. Since there's no tanai, then the chalitza is good chalitza. Then Amasava shlei bin a tanai kafel. And the Chacham say you don't need a tanai kafel. And since what yesh tanai and you didn't fulfill it, the chalitza is not a chalitza, and therefore the maimah is a maimah. So you have 6 different ways to learn pshat. Abaya that's speaking about kedushas yevamim. Rav is speaking about zikas yevamim. You have Rav Shravya speaking about chalitza psula. We have Rav Ashi it's speaking about tanai, and we have Ravina speaking about tanai kafel. 6 different ways to go ahead and explain the machlokes between Rebbe and the Chachamim. Okay, so the Mishnah, it was a very, very long Mishnah. It was a very, very, very long Mishnah. And the Mishnah, it was kind of funny. I think we should go back to see the Mishnah on Daf Nun. Let's go to the last few lines in the Mishnah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's 5 lines up. Nasan get v'asa maimer tzricha get the chalitza. Nasan get u'boil tzricha get. Okay, the chalitza. Now, really, nasan get or this is the last few words over here. That you went ahead, you get a get to your mama, did chalitza, or did maimer, or nasan lach get after the chalitza, or you boil and then you gave chalitza, or you boil and then you gave maimer, or you boil and then the bottom line is it says ein acha chalitza klum. After chalitza, whether you gave a get or maimer, there's nothing. It said bia over here, right? So it should have said ein acha bia klum. The last few cases, guys, boil v'nas and get, boil v'nas chalitza, boil v'nas and maimer, right? After the bia, there should be nothing, but it doesn't say that. It just says ein acha chalitza klum. So we gave two cases. We gave the cases of chalitza, then get, chalitza, then maimer, chalitza, then bia. We give that. Good. And then we go to a separate column and we say bia get, bia chalitza, bia maimer, right? And it says, after we said those cases, it concludes ein acha chalitza klum. But really, the last thing you stated was the case of yibum. It should have said ein acha bia klum, it should say. So that's the Gemara's kasha. Says the Gemara, chalitz the asa maimer v'nasan get uboil. Right now, v'nisni nami ein acha bia klum. Why do you just say ein acha yibum klum? You should have said ein acha bia klum. Says the Gemara, Rabbi v'Rabbi Damet Shavai, they're both of the opinion, ein acha bia klum. You should learn Tanu, learn ein acha bia klum. Read the Mishnah that way. The Tana Didon, who didn't read it that way, only mentioned chalitza, even though the same is true of bia. Says the Gemara, Yevamot l'shuk adifalei. To go ahead, hataras Yevamot l'shuk, to tell me the hatara, the allowing a Yevamot to go to the shuk is a bigger chiddush than say that she's married to the brother. It's a bigger chiddush, and therefore it said only mention ein acha chalitza klum, to let her go free. The Mishnah continues. It says echad Yevama achas the echad shtei Yevamas. Now it says one Yevama and two women, right? Now we want to say what was the halacha, guys? What was the halacha over there? That the halacha of ein acha klum would be in that case, or ein get acha get would be in that case. Says the Gemara. Masisin loike ben azai. The Tanya ben azai yomer yesh ma'im acha ma'mer b'shnei yevamim v'yevama achas. There is the ein ma'mer achas ma'mer b'shnei yevamas v'yavam echad. Now our Mishnah said the following, guys. If you hold ein ma'mer acha ma'mer, the ein get acha get, it's in three different scenarios: 1-on-1, 1-on-2, 2-on-1. One yavam, one yavama. One yavam, two yavamis. Two yavamim, one yavama. In all those scenarios, we'd say, according to Rabbi Gamliel, ein get acha get, ein ma'im acha ma'im. That's what our Mishnah said. Ben Isai makes a chilik. Ben Isai says when you say ein ma'im acha ma'im, only 1-on-1. But if it's 1 and 2, two women, you would say it. So therefore, our Mishnah doesn't go according to him. Says the Gemara one more time. Achas Yevama, Achas Shtei Yevamas, whether it's one Yevama or two. One Yevama with two women. One Yevama or two Yevamas. Masis like Ben Azai, the Tanya Ben Azai Yomer, Yesh Ma'ima Acha Ma'ima, when? B'shnei Yevamim v'yavam Achas. If it's two men and one woman, then there is Ma'ima after Ma'ima. However, ve'ein Ma'ima Acha Ma'ima b'shnei Yevamis v'yavam Echad. If it's only one man, then we don't say Yesh Ma'ima Acha Ma'ima. If it's two men and one woman, we would say it. Our Mishnah says no. If you hold ein ma'ima acha ma'ima, there's no difference whether it's 1-1, 2-1, or 1-2. Therefore, the Mishnah can be according to Ben Azai. Okay, the Mishnah said keitza ma'ima lezu v'cholitz. I'm putting in the words of that the Gemara is going to discuss. Ma'ima lezu v'cholitz la harishayna tzricha get. Okay, it says if you give maimer and then you give chalitza, you need a get for the maimer. Okay, now the Gemara's havamina is that chalas lezu. If you go ahead and you give, you do maimer, lechatchila, you give chalitza to the second one and not to the first one. Okay, again, Kate said maimer lezu, for chalatz lezu. If you do maimer and chalitza, so you're going to give get, guys, listen, maimer, chalitza, you're going to give a get to the balas maimer, and you're going to give chalitza to the second one, to the right. That's the case. You're going to give chalitza to the rishon tzrich get. Then Gemara says shachos okay. So you're giving maimer to the first one. I'm not sure of this case. Let me make sure of this case before I go further. I don't want to tell you wrong shot. Okay, you have two Yevamis, guys. You have two Yevamis. He gives Maimer to one Yevama and Chalitza to a second Yevama. And he said the first one needs a get. Okay. Now, why can't you do Chalitza with the one that he gave the Maimer to, guys? Maimer, Chalitza, this one needs a get. Why can't you do Chalitza? Why don't you to this one? It's mashma, you have to give chalitza to the other one. Why can't you do everything to that one? I just want to get her out of the house, right? I just have to get, this house has two women. I know to bake a zika, to bake the maimer that I gave, I need a get. To bake the zika, I need chalitza. Yet I'm giving chalitza to the second one, not the first one. You got it, guys? Two women. If he gives maimer to the first one, then what does he need to do now? He has to break a get for the maimer and a chalitza for the zika on the whole house. Who does he give the chalitza to? Not the first one that he gave the get to, rather the second one. Good? That's the case. That's the case. So let's go. Says the Gemara, Lema, let us say, Misayele Shmuel. This would be a raya to Shmuel. Let's say this would be a raya to Shmuel. What's the raya to Shmuel? Yavam, who says a Yavam that does maimer with one of his Yevamos and gives chalitza lebalas maimer loynifter ritzarasa. So let's say you had two women, guys, One you gave maimer to, and there's a tzara. If you go ahead and do chalitza to this one, it's not going to pot to this one. Because once you did maimer, again, this is now, it's like a chalitza psula. So you have to give it to the other one. So very geschmack. If our mission is stating the following, if I have maimer to one and chalitza I have to give chalitza to the other, because I can't give chalitza to this one, which is Shmuel's din. You can't give the chalitza to the balas maima, because if you give chalitza to the balas maima, it's not going to pat to the tzara. Rather, you have to give chalitza to the tzara. So our Mishnah apparently be a raya to the Amoyre Shmuel. Lema that Shmuel has a raya. And for the Gemara, because what does Shmuel say? Doma Shmuel, chalatz lebalas maima, like nifter b'tzarasa. Says the Gemara, and v'tiyuf to the Rabbi Yosef. And it's an upshlag on Rabbi Yosef. Guys, what did Rabbi Yosef say? Watch. This one that is the balas maimer, you're going to give a get to, correct? Can she marry Kayin? Why? She's a gerusha. She can't marry Kayin. So rather than give chalitza to this one and get this one also out of the ballpark because she can't marry a chalutza, let's just do everything to here and we'll keep this one available. So when we say that, no, you're giving chalitza over here, it's a raya to Shmuel, and it's the kasha Rabbi Yosef who says, don't mess up another woman for a Kayin, which we learned earlier in the Masechta. Okay? So it says the Gemara, Lema Mesayle the Shmuel, and let's tiyuf to Rabbi Yosef. It should be optional on Rabbi Yosef. And for the Gemara, you have no raya. Miketani chalitz, does it say that lichatchila give chalitz to the shniya? It says chalitz ketani. It's mashmit yeved, but really you can give whoever you want. So when it says maimer, you give maimer to this one, chalitza, it's not telling us lichatchila do chalitza. Whichever one you do chalitza to is going to take off the zika. And lav dafka, you have to be this one. But if you give this one, you're okay. But not saying you have to give to this one. And it's not a riot to Shmuel, and it's not an upshlag on Rabbi Yosef. Because I can give chalitza to this one also to get rid of the zika from the house. I give a get for the maimer to this one. And in fact, if I would go ahead and give chalitza to this one will be part of everything would be good. But lav dafka, you have to give it to this. Again, what's the raya? If I have to give to this one, it's the raya to Shmuel. If I have to give to this one, it's a kasha Rabbi Yosef messing up another woman because you have a gerush over here and a chalutza over there. Tell me we're good. We're good. Good. Okay, we're good. Says the Gemara. Okay, now, next case was get lezu. For get lezu, you said that you need chalitza. And the hashmois is, again, two Yevamis, guys. Guys, two Yevamis. So you gave each one a get. Can these women marry? Why? Zika is still intact. Remember, the Raisa, the only way to get out of Yibum is Chalitza, and out of Yibum, meaning out of a Shemeres Yavam. To Mata, you need. So the Havamina is, guys, when it says get Lezu, get Lezu, you need Chalitza on both. Good? That's you need Chalitza on both. Says Gemara. Get Lezu, get Lezu, you need Chalitza for both. Lema Messiah le Rabba Barav Huna. Let's say it's a Raya to Rabba Rav Huna. Dama Rabba Rav Huna. Chalitza Psula. Tzrich Lachza Kol Achen. Guys, I give a get to this one, and now I do a chalitza. That's a chalitza psula. Any chalitza that I could have done yibum is a good chalitza. This chalitza I couldn't do yibum. Why? Because it was a get. So that's called a chalitza psula. That's the best way to attach a chalitza. Why is the chalitza after a get called psula? Because I can't do yibum. So now, if I have two women that I each one gave a get to, and the Mishnah is telling me I have to give chalitza to both, it must be why? Because the chalitza psula is not going to matter. And that's what Rabbi Rav Huna says. You have to go to all the brothers. In this case, you have to go to all the brothers. So let's say it's a riot to him. Says the Gemara, no. My tzrichas, when it says tzrichas himenu chalitza, it doesn't mean both. It means only one. Says Gemara, so what does tzrichas mean? Tzrichas to alma. All Yevamis in this situation will need a chalitza. Not each one this individually. The genera Yevama, who there is only a get in the house, needs a chalitza to pata the zika. But not saying that what you need on each one individually a chalitza. Get lezu, that's not enough to get out of that shemeres yavam. You would need a chalitza to take off the zika. Again, we're going through each case of the Mishnah one by one. Next case of the Mishnah, get lezu v'cholas lezu. So what do we say? Ein acha chalitza klum, guys, right? You gave a get to one, a chalitza to the other, you're good. What else is there to do? You took care of the zika, right? You're gone. It says, let's say, again, the Havamina is, guys, what? The Havamina is, I can't do chalitza to the balas get. Get lezu v'chalitza lezu. The Havamina is what? Because I can't go ahead and give it to this one. That'll be a riot to Shmuel and a kasha on Rabbi Yosef. And the answer is no, you could even go to this one. Says the Gemara, the same dialogues before. Shmuel, Tavituf to Rabbi Yosef. Says the Gemara, Mikatani chaylitz, chalatz. It doesn't say chaylitz, you have to. Chalatz katani, if you did it, b'di'evet. Guys, we good so far? Baruch Hashem. Now, chalatz v'chalatz, or chalatz, right? We went through the whole Mishnah. Velisti nami ein achar bia klum. Again, the same dialogue, and you had bia, right? Says the Gemara, Abaye Rabbi, Shabayu, Tani ein achar bia klum. Ein achanami say ein achar bia klum. Vitana di done. Why did he only mention ein achar chalitza klum rather than ein achar bia klum? Is that hataras yivamim l'shuk adifle. It's more stronger to go ahead and tell me the din of matering yivamim l'shuk to tell me that you can make this onto a house. Now, we said the Mishnah said whether it's bein yav mechel l'shtei yavamis, whether it's one man and two women, and then we also said bein whether it's two men and one woman. So the Gemara says now, going back in time, Daf Yud, guys, Daf Yud, we have to go all the way back. Machloikis between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, when you have a few brothers, one of the brothers goes ahead and gives chalitza to a certain woman. So to that brother who gave chalitza, the woman is chayv elavim, correct? Now it's in the ballpark of kivin shalei bana shelo yivna. What about the other brothers? Reuven goes ahead and gives chalitza to Rachel. Now you have Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. What's the relationship between Rachel and Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda? Does it remain an issur of Eishes Ach like it was previously, because they didn't do anything to her? Or that no, since one brother acted upon their behalf, they are considered the same issur of not Eishes Ach, but Kivin Shlei Bona Shuv La Yivna. That was the machlokes between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish held it's only to Reuven, who went ahead and gave chalitza, is there a lav. But the Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda, Rachel would be Eishes Ach, Achi of Karis. Versus Rabbi Yochanan says, no, Reuven is only acting the shliach for Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. And just like on Reuven, he did the action, the Isser on Rachel now is only a lav. Hu adin and Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, this is a lav. It was a very important Yisayistic machlokes How do you view the act of yibum by a brother, or the act of chalitza by a brother? So now, with that in mind, says the Gemara, it says bein yav mechel shtei yivamis, and bein two men, one woman to two men, or two men to one woman. Now Bishlem Rabbi Yochanan says that you acted on the shlichus. So kula base, so all right, belavkoi, the whole house, Shimon, Levi, who the guys, they're all in the lav of kivan shalei bana shalei yivna, right? And what did we say? Kedushin is not toifus by chai lavin. So that's the chiddush over here. If you give chalitza, and if the chalitza, there's nothing because it's a lav, says the Gemara. But so it's lashmina, and then kedushin toifus by chai lavin. El reish lakish amar kula besa bikaris koi. Guys, once you gave chalitza, all the other brothers are in the sikaris, right? Because it only goes, the first brother is alive. It's the Bichlash Me'ina. Does the Mishnah have to tell me that in Kedushin Taifs and B'chayve Krisis? It's clear that it's not Taifs by Chayve Krisis. So I know Ein Acham Chalitza Klum. What's the Kiddush like Reish Lakish? Again, you're telling me Ein Acham Klum. Now Bishlema, if you tell me the Kiddush is to teach me now halachas like Rabbi Akiva, despite the fact that all the brothers are lavim, if they do another Chalitza afterwards, so you're telling me it didn't, that what? That it's not Taifs. Mashenkin, if you're going to tell me what? That it's Issa Karis, of course, it's every kid in school knows that. So what's the kiddush like Reish Lakish? Says the Reish Lakish, I'm like Reish Lakish. According to your reasoning, the sefer dektani that's said by two men that about two men. So Bo the Asa Mimer. The first guy did Yibum, the second one did Mimer. That the second one doesn't help. It's the Flashmina and then Kedushin Taifs and Beishas Ish. Guys, you have to tell me, guys, watch. The first brother was Miyabim her, and the second brother gave a Kedushin. That's what the Mishnah said. Boil, and afterwards you gave Maimer. Two brothers. One was Kainah, and the second one did Kedushin. We know Kedushin is not Taifs by Beishas Ish, guys. So why do we learn it? So the answer is symmetry. Sometimes the Mishnah says something for symmetry to be consistent, the words throughout, without any chiddush whatsoever. Ella, that's what it is over here. Ella, I did the Tana Hataras Yavam Echad v'Yavam Achas. Since you told me that what one man, one woman, Tananami Shtei Yavamis v'Yavam Echad. So I did Tani Shtei Yavamis v'Yavam Echad, Tananami Shtei Yavam v'Yavam Achas. Even though there's no chiddush over there, I'm at base. Even though there's no chiddush over there, you told it to me. Now, next case, the Mishnah said Cholitz v'Asa Maimer, right? V'Nasan Get, right? It doesn't make a difference. Or guys. Cholitz v'asa maimer, cholitz v'asa get. All those cases, ein acha chalitza klum. Nothing afterwards. After chalitza, there's nothing. Now bishleim cholitz v'asa maimer. Bishleim, you have to tell me chalitza and you have to use kedushin. It's the rich. You need to tell me that. Salkadat, I mean, I would have thought. Nigzer maimer de basa chalitza, atu maimer de kami chalitza. Since maimer before chalitza would require a get, I might think we make the following gzeira. That Maimer after Chalitza would require a get. Why? Because if it doesn't, you may mistakenly think a Maimer before Chalitza doesn't need a get, and in fact it does. Because you were Makadish, a Yevamot, who had a Zika. Bishlema, when there's a Chalitza and the Zika was taken off, the Maimer is nothing. Conversely, if the Maimer took place before, it's something. So I can understand why you would need a get if you did the Maimer afterwards. Gezerah, Maimer before. Kamash Malon, the loy gazrina. El cholitz v'nasan get, to tell me the case of cholitz v'nasan get. What are you worried about? That you gave a get and then you chalitza? That's great, guys. Cholitz, guys, watch. Let's do the inverse. Cholitz v'nasan get, einacha klum. What are you worried about? That you give a get and chalitza? That's what you're supposed to do. Right? There's nothing to worry about. Let it be chalitza yom v'layla. Let it go straight through. So lamali. So therefore, in other words, that's an obvious case. There's no chiddush there. Again, we're going to give the same dialogue. Bol v'asa maimer. Once you did bia, and then you did a kedushin after the act of bia. Bol v'nasan get. You did an act of bia, then you gave a get. Bishleim bol v'nasan get. It's the richsak lakamina nigs to get the basa beila, or to get the kami beila. Kamash malon loy gazrina. We don't make a gzeva. I will boil v'asa maimer. If you go ahead and boil and do maimer afterwards, lamali. There's no chiddush in that. Ella, why did you learn that case? I did a ton of cholitz v'asa maimer, tananami bol v'asa maimer, just for symmetry. So therefore, the same thing by us. I did the boil misni bol v'nasan get, tananami cholitz v'nasan get, even though there's no chiddush whatsoever. Okay. Finally, we said that the final din of the Mishnah was Bisman Shehi, the Chalitza, was it was the beginning, then Anachara Klum. The Emsa, Yesh Achara Klum. So now we had the Mashitas of the Chachamim. The Chachamim said Chalitza helps in the beginning. The Shitas of the Chachamim is that what? Is that if you did Yibum at the beginning, then there's nothing to worry about afterwards. But if you did the Yibum in the middle and the end, then there's something to worry about. If you did Chalitza, then there's nothing to worry about. And the Chemia says it doesn't make a difference. Whether you did Chalitza or Yibum, there's nothing to worry about afterwards. Again, one more time. The Chachamim, Yibum in the beginning, nothing to worry about. In the middle of the end, something to worry about. Chalitza in the beginning, middle, end, nothing to worry about. That was the bottom of Nun Amid Beis. And Masha'en Kain, Reb Nechemia said, no matter when, beginning, whether it's Bia, whether it's Yibum, Chalitza, doesn't make a difference. Ein Acharei Klum. He was the most mekel Shita. Good. We're gonna have a third Shita now. Masisin Lo Kiatana. Our Mishnah does not go according to the following Tana. Who's that Tana? Tanya. Abba Yosef ben Yochanan Ishi Yerushalayim Amar Mishum Reb Meir. He said, Achas Beila be'achas Chalitza, whether it's Bia or Chalitza, B'tchila Ein Acharei Klum. In the beginning, nothing. Be'emtza b'soif Yesh Acharei Klum. So he's not like the Chachamim. Yitzi, I'm saying share. I'll call you back. You know, was Yitzi calling that because no matter what time I say share, he has to call. That's like the myth. It's like clued in. Okay, guys. Again, the Chachamim say by Bia, there will be, but if you do in the beginning nothing, middle end something. Chalitza, no difference. Middle end something. Says Rabbi Nechemia, middle end something. Bia Chalitza, nothing. Says the Tana of Abi Yosef ben Yochanan, no. He says the Bia also would make a difference, and the Chalitza also would make a difference in the beginning again. So he argues in the Chachamim why Chalitza. The Chachamim say by Chalitza, whenever it happens, it doesn't make a difference. Ein Acharei Klum. He says Yesh B'Acharei Klum. He agrees by Bia. He disagrees by Chalitza. Ushleisha Machlokes b'David. This is three Machlokes. Tanakama Sava. The Tanakama says, who says right that he makes a chilek between Bia and Chalitza. Bia, the Ikar Migzar. By Bia, we were worried if you're going to do it. By Bia, there is what to worry about, right? By Bia, guys, there is what to worry about. Bia psul yesh acharei klum, because Bia acha get. Let's say it's a Bia after get, guys. I'm going over the Gemara on Daf Nun Amid Beis. If it's a Bia after the get, you're going to be geyser Bia, right? Bia acha get. Mishum Bia acha Chalitza. You guys, if we let you do a Bia after the get, you may come do a Bia after Chalitza, because get and Chalitza are synonymous. So therefore, the Chacham said by Bia, I got to worry about. There's something to worry about. And the Mela, only if Bia is first. Again, Yibum get Maimer. If Bia is first, then it'll pata. But if Bia is after a get, I'm worried about a Bia after Chalitza. Therefore, the Chacham say the Bia in the middle won't work. You have to worry about Bichayish with the Maimer to place afterwards. Because you guys are to what? A Bia that's going to take place after a Chalitza, which is something to be concerned about. Okay? So therefore, here's the three machlokes. Tanakama, who says that by Bia, we have to only by beginning Betchila, the Ikal and Migzar, yes, therefore what? We're worried. Kasrinan, we're goyzer, that afterward there's something. But Chalitza, the Lekal and Migzar, by Chalitza, there's nothing to worry about. We're not goyzer, like Kasrinan. And the Nechemia says, Bia, Nami, Lekal and Migzar, we're not worried about that. You're worried about maybe a Bia taking place after Chalitza? No. With the kind of Bia Aget, we should be Acha Chalitza, I'm not worried there. The Chalitza the Raisa, made the Yoda, Chalitza the Raisa, gets the Rabbanim. We're not worried if we let you do a Bia after a get. We're not going to worry you can do a Bia after Chalitza, which is the Raisa. With the Karmit, what lives in Bia Acha Maima, you should Bia Acha Bia. Says no. What should keep in the Bia the Raisa, made the Yoda. So therefore, he across the board, no matter where it takes place, the Bia or the Chalitza, he's going to matter afterwards like nothing happened. And what about the Abi Yossi, who says by Bia and Chalitza also? Abi Yossi ben Chanan Savala Krabanon by Bia, with Bia after get, after Bia after Chalitza, the Gaza the Chalitza Mishum Bia. And you know why? Again, the Chacham say Chalitza, I don't worry. Why does he worry about chalitza? If we let you do a get chalitza and say you don't have to worry about, you may have to worry about what a bia after a get. So he's going to chalitza at the bia, and therefore across the border you have to worry. Okay, we'll start the new parak tomorrow night. It should be about 9:30. I think about 9:30. Shabbos is over like 9:45 to 10 to. So I don't want to rush into it. We'll give guys time to get together. Probably about 9:30.